tell me something about yourself, Ali?
Yeah, my name is Ali, and this is not my real name, this is my nickname. And due to the current situation and due to the consequences of saying what I'm gonna say, I have to lay low and I have to say this anonymously. So I have to hide my name. But you can call me Ali.
Okay.
And I was born and raised in a refugee camp in West Bank. I have a BA degree in the Applied English Language, and I'm doing my master's degree in the International Cooperation and Development. And for the last, let's say, 5 years, I am into building relation with the Jewish community, with the Israeli side, so we can build something positive in this area.
Why is it so unsafe for you to talk about your experiences? Why is that?
Yeah, this is it's a kind of the absurd reality that we can put it under the general umbrella, first of all, that we lack the freedom of speech here. I mean, me as a Palestinian, I cannot say whatever I want. I cannot express whatever I want. On one hand, on the other, to be more specific, when it comes to the Israeli and the Jewish relations, the thing is worse because the normalization is a very important concept that everyone must understand, and the fact that I'm trying to build a positive relation with the Jewish side is something so risky here. I mean, my community, you know, the Palestinian community is an honor-based community. So one of the most things that you have to care about is your reputation. The moment you lose your reputation, you lost a lot. And this had a lot of consequences on you. So someone who's trying to build relations with the Jewish side, with the Israeli side, his reputation or her reputation will be ruined.
What would be the consequence?
Now the consequence is first of all, I'm losing my reputation. This means that I am done. I cannot live in this community anymore. My community will bash me, my neighbors will bash me. It will be everywhere on one hand. On the other, of course, the Palestinian Authority, they will fight me. I will be arrested by their security forces. And, the consequences are so bad for someone who's still living here. For me, if I get to this point that I'm uncovered, I have to leave the place. I cannot live there anymore. So just to go back to the point of building the relationship, we can summarize it, or the consequences, we can summarize it in 2 points. One, the community is fighting me, and my community is fighting me. The other part is that how my authority is fighting me.
Yes.
So I have to lay low. I have to be very careful about every word. I have to be careful. For me, your camera now is like a gun. So this is why I insisted on blaring my voice and blaring my...
So why do you decide to speak out if it's so dangerous for you?
Because for me, someone must tell the truth, and someone must tell this entire blind world about what's going on there in this place. I mean, for me as a Palestinian, I witnessed a lot of things here. And for me, I took it as kind of my mission that my authority is doing a lot of wrong things. And these things or these wrongdoings are actually adding more fuel to the conflict. For me, I am a Palestinian. I want to live for tomorrow. I want to think about my future. I don't want my kids, and I don't want my brothers. I don't want my little kids in my place. I mean, the little kids in my place to pay the price of the incitement, to pay the price of the circle of the violence that has been going on here for years, and it's useless. We are just paying that heavy price. It's not me. I mean, it's me and my community are the ones who are paying the price of this incitement and this violence, but the Palestinian Authority, they are the ones who are taking advantages of this incitement.
Right.
So I want this to stop, and I want the world to know. I want the world who supports this political system to know that, listen, you are sending the money to make my life better, to make the life of the Palestinians better. And I do believe in this. I believe in the good faith behind this money. But on the other side, the money that you send is not going to me.
You grew up in a refugee camp? I don't think your parents taught you these ideas that you're telling me now, are they?
It's not about the parents here. It's about an entire education system.
So, but you grew up in the refugee camp. What were you taught by the educational system?
So let me put it this way: we are a product of an education system that want us to hate, that want us to be violent, and let me put it this way: this education system dictate us so many things. One of these things is that we will never solve this conflict if we were not violent. I mean, violence is the only way to solve this conflict.
Did the teachers teach you that at school?
Let me put it this way: it's not directly the teacher. I mean, the education system. So, for instance, when you go to the education system, I don't want, at this point, it's also something that we should understood. We should understand that when you are the weak side, you cannot teach love a lot, and you cannot do a lot of positive things. But at least you have to be practical, and in order to solve the problem, you need to compromise. The value of the compromise, for instance, is completely absent from the education system. Because you compromise, it means you are dishonored person. You give up on your honor. You give up on the, let's say, on the blood. Yeah, on the blood of the martyr. So you compromise. This means that you are stabbing your people and your case in the back. Another important thing is that I've never heard the word peace in the Palestinian education system. This word has a very negative connotation in the Palestinian street, in the entire Palestinian education system. Peace means betrayal. So it's in an indirect incitement, because if it wasn't peace, then it's violence. So in some situation, let's say in the individual, of course, some teachers, when they are motivated by political views and by radical views, of course, they will teach this hate, but it's not in a systematic way. But I'm talking about the systematic way of educating. It is no peace. It is only violence, okay? And the compromising and giving and recognizing the other side of this conflict, this is stabbing in the back. And this is the education system that we are the product of.
Yeah, but you as a child, you wanted to kill Jewish people?
Me personally, no, I've never been into these experiences. For me as a person, I was in a way, let's say when I was kids, I saw a lot of things that I really didn't agree with. So I distance myself from a lot of things. But as a product, if you ask me this question, let's say 5 years ago, if you're asking me about this question 5 years ago, and you ask me what do you think about the Jews, what do you think about Israel, I would tell you, the murderers, the vampires, the occupation, the apartheid, all these big titles that we just recite. We don't know what they really understand, what they really mean. Sorry. So for me, let's say the last 5 years, a lot of things changed in my mind. I was let's say I used to stick to my narrative as a Palestinian who didn't recognize the other side of this conflict, who didn't know anything about the other side. And let's say I am now in the middle. I'm not saying that I'm hardcore pro-Israel or something, but I am pro the truth. And for me, when I have a problem in my community, I would like to fix that problem in my community before I talk about the other bigger issues and the other big problem on the let's say on the higher level. For me, I'm as a Palestinian, I see a lot of bad things. I see a lot of problems that needed to be fixed in my community, so we can pave the road to ending this conflict.
Can you give me some examples of the problems that your community is facing?
For instance, one of the main problems that I see, and it's a general umbrella, which is the Palestinian Authority's corruption. I mean, corruption is a very normal phenomenon. Whenever you have any political system, you have corruption. This is something. That's a fact, let's say. But the thing here, when you have corruption in the conflict, this is worse. Why? Because this adds fuel to the conflict. This makes it worse. So, for instance, me as a Palestinian here, I'm talking to you, and if you ask me what are your dreams, I will tell you I'm dreaming of a day that I want free healthcare, I want free education, I don't want to be afraid of tomorrow. So to simplify, to summarize it, I'm looking for a dignified life. And I am a Palestinian, I don't want to be involved in any violence. Okay? This is my stance, this is my opinion, I stick to it no matter what. If we want to talk about other Palestinians who are actually, let's say, were involved in violence against Israel, if you are a prisoner and if you spent, let's say, 4 or 5 years in Israeli jail because you attacked an Israeli or you attacked a settler or whatever, you were involved in any violent attack against Israel. If you spend 4 or 5 years in jail, what you will get, or the benefits of this, are actually the dreams that I am aspiring to have. So, for instance, you will have a salary.
If you are in jail, you get a salary.
Yeah, if you are in jail, you get the salary. You get the health insurance. If you want to study, you will get a scholarship from the Palestinian Authority. Of course, if you belong to Fatah, it means that let's say that you have more chances to get all of these things. And most importantly, you are a hero in an honor-based community. You are a hero. But for me as a Palestinian who's trying to do positive things, who's trying to bring some positivity to this dark part of this conflict, okay, nobody would consider me as a hero.
Can you tell me about, because you mentioned earlier that Palestinian Authority is corrupt, but Holland is giving a lot of money, the Dutch government is giving a lot of money to the Palestinian Authority, as well as Europe. Do you think the money is well spent?
In fact, as I told you, corruption is a very normal phenomenon in each political system. But here, from the early beginnings of Oslo Accords, when the entire world was cheering up and happy and having its political orgasm that here the Palestinians finally they're talking about peace, nobody really investigated or made sure if the Palestinian Authority, this entity, is it accountable? Is it transparent? Can we make sure that the money that we are sending out of goodwill to improve and to develop the Palestinian life, can we make sure that these money are going to the right side? Unfortunately, no. So, for instance, if anyone would like to check, for instance, let's say the healthcare under the Palestinian system, it's a very important aspect, and it's an important, let's say, concept in the good governance. You will figure out that the Palestinian Authority does not spend a lot on the healthcare. You will figure out that the Palestinian Authority does not spend a lot on education. You will figure out that the Palestinian Authority spends $0, €0 on anything related to peace. Let's say the one who are involved in the peace and in the social movement that we are trying to, in a way, to make connection between the Israelis and the Palestinians, we receive 0 shekel, $0, €0 from the Palestinians and from the Arabs. If we want to look for funds, we will go to the Europeans and to the Americans.
So where is the money being spent if it's not going to these causes?
Yeah, so in fact, actually, if anyone want to investigate the bank account of the Palestinian leaders, of the so-called the nationalistic leaders, you will see where the money goes. If you check in Switzerland, you will see where the money goes. If you check the banks of Jordan, you will see where does the money go.
You mean in the pockets of the leaders?
Of course. And also, it's not. Yeah, this is the other part that I want to take is the misspending of this money and the misdoing. I mean, you are not. Yes, you are taking the money. They don't put them in their pocket. Yes, but also a lot of these money are being spent in a very wrong way. Just like here, for instance, when you as a prisoner, okay, and there is an important part that I want to talk, which is how the Palestinian Authority during 25 years failed to make a kind of economic development for the Palestinians so this can develop their life. So for instance, here for me as a Palestinian, I work in a restaurant. I get paid, my monthly payment is about $450, okay? And within this $450, I have to manage a lot of things. It's something for me, this amount of money, that does not allow me to live a dignified life. And by the way, this is the minimum wage under the Palestinian Authority. But for me, for instance, if I am a prisoner, okay, I will get a bit more money as a monthly payment just because I was a prisoner and I can't find another job. So in this way, I improved my income. Yeah, I get a double. For me, I am worried so many times. I'm worried, what if I get sick tomorrow? What if I needed a surgery or something? This will cost me my entire annual income just to cover a surgery if I need a surgery or something. So I'm worried all the time. The Palestinian Authority does not provide me with this health care that can make me feel safe about tomorrow. But here, if you are a prisoner, you will get the health insurance from the Palestinian Authority. Let's talk about how do we perceive the Jews. So, as I told you, I was born and raised in a refugee camp. These places people call them the nest of angers. I mean, these places here represent the heart of the conflict. You know, the refugee statement is something like a taboo in the Palestinian case.
Can you explain what you mean with that?
Yeah, what I mean are the people in the refugee camps are politically and violently active because they consider themselves as the victims of this conflict, and eventually they don't have anything to lose but the shitty life in the camp. So let us try to fight, let's continue fighting, let's continue being violent so we can restore our lands. I mean, the 1948 lands, which is Israel nowadays. And this is why I connected with the fact of the compromise. So, let's say as product of the education system under the Palestinian Authority, the entire system, I'm talking about schools, I'm talking about mosques, I'm talking about the streets, I'm talking about all the aspects of the education system. What we were taught there, first of all, we've never distinguished between Israeli and Jew. To us, Jew is a Jew. There is no reason. I mean, there is no difference. Our enemy here, I mean, in the past, the way that they portrayed to us, the true enemy is the Jew. And
Were you on a UN school or not?
yeah, I got my education till the 9th grade at an UNRWA school.
UNRWA school, okay. And on these schools, they said it's the same, Israel and Jew.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But it depends on the course. So, for instance, when you're talking about the history, okay, let's say when they are going to the history act, when they talk about Israel and Israel, of course they have to mention Israel and Israelis. But in general, okay, let's say this is the way that, for me, it took me time till I distinguish between an Israeli and a Jew. These things grew up with us, Jew. And regarding the idea of the hate, when you are part of the conflict, it's very expected to hate the other side. Specifically, this conflict that actually it has been here for 70 years.
Yes.
During these 70 years, we have wars, we have operations, we have stuff. Okay, we went through a lot of difficult experiences together on both sides. So to hate, this is something expected. But the problem is when you add more fuel to the hate. What I mean, when you are not being honest about what you are teaching, for instance, this is a problem. So, for instance, I remember from my experience as a kid who got his education. I finished my basic education, I think, about 10 years ago. When you are not objective about the history, so you can make a favor to your case, this is something wrong and adds more hatred. For instance, when in this let's say in this education system, for me as any Palestinian in this place, I used to think that the Israelis and the Jews, they faked the Holocaust so they can get sympathy from the Europeans and from the Americans, from the international world, so they can support their colonizer aspirations. So this is part of the education. You have colonizers and you have people who fake the history so they can give legitimacy to their narrative. So when you are not teaching the history, you are not teaching that the Holocaust happened and 6 million Jews were murdered away from this conflict, this is something wrong and it adds a lot of hatred. Another important thing is that when you are, when you're teaching about the Holocaust, we think that the Holocaust is done, but it's not. The Holocaust is live here. And part of the understanding that I'm trying to spread among my community, that the Jews are trying to live safe. They are trying to protect themselves like any normal nation in this world. Like the way that we are all looking for safety, they are also looking for safety. But the persecution that they went through during for thousands of years traumatized them to a point that we need to protect ourselves and will never be victims anymore. This is the kind of education that I really wanted my political system to teach me. That listen, yes, we are part of conflict, but the other side of the conflict went through a lot of persecution, a lot of experiences that affected this conflict.
Yeah, but then a lot of people will say, okay, the Jewish people suffered, but that's not a reason that they now have to give so much trouble to Palestinians.
Yes, but here it will be something like constructive. We have to add something else, that those people here, they originally were here 4,000 years ago. So it's part of the narrative. Yes, the Holocaust and the persecution, part of the is part like all these experiences are part of the narrative, but we have a major narrative here that those people here, they were here, and this is something that we deny. So if we get to a point and understanding that those people were here, and their narrative is legitimate to this land, and this is not actually alternative to our narrative. I mean, we are here. We can. It's not a black or white. It's not like either us or they're here. Here we can live together, us and them. So the narrative and why those people come here is very important to understand, because we still think and educate our kids that the Jews are colonizers who came from the nowhere just to occupy this piece of land because they don't have any other place to go. So it's a kind of, let's say, colloquial education. Yeah, a lot of twisted truth that affect the conflict. And as I told you, it adds more fuel to the hatred and to the ignorance that we are living in.
Yeah. What was the moment that you realized, oh wait, it's not like I've always thought it was, but the reality is different.
So, in fact, there are several experiences, let's say. The first one, I was working in a restaurant like this because I finished my higher education, my secondary school, and I wanted to go to a college to study English. And I figured out that my father couldn't afford my education. And also, and as I told you before, we don't have free education. You have to pay. And you don't have any kind of even support. So you can continue and finish your aspiration to be intellectual, to finish your education. So I went to a restaurant, and while I was working in that restaurant, I get to know, let's say, several Americans, because one of my dreams was to speak English fluently. And I have to admit that English opened my mind and broadened my horizons a lot, because my education was in one language, one biased language, one non-objective language. But when I started learning English, and we started speaking English and talking English, I saw that there are a lot of twisted things there. So in that restaurant, you are interacting with native speakers, and after about 3 years, I collected the money and I went to the school. So I studied there, and I improved my language. And during interaction with those Americans and with those guys, they opened my mind to a lot of things here that, because I am inside the conflict, I couldn't see. So for instance, because you need someone from outside the conflict to tell you, listen, this is right and this is wrong. When you are inside the conflict, you believe that everything you do is the right thing. You will never see the wrongdoing of you. So they opened my mind about a lot of things that are being, let's say, the facts that are actually about my conflict here. Particularly, let's say, the corruption and the way that this political system is corrupt in so many ways. I couldn't see this when I'm inside. I'm just a product to their system. Then the most experience, let's say, the most important experience that really opened my mind to the Jewish side and educated me a lot about the Jewish narrative and about the Jewish people is when I met a settler in 2016. It was the first time that I meet
A Jewish person living in a settlement.
exactly. It was for me the first time that I meet a Jew who's not a soldier, because unfortunately we are living in a situation that the only meeting between me, I'm talking about here West Bank and Gaza, the only meeting that we have here is that me as a Palestinian, I'm civil, I'm meeting an Israeli soldier. That's the only encounter between us. So it was the opportunity that opened my mind, and it was one of the turning points in my life during the last 5 years. After that, a lot of things in my mind changed. A lot of things, let's say, a lot of the twisted things were erased from my mind, and I started to see the things without the filters of the twisting, without the filters of the hate. I am objective. When I see a problem on my side, I say stop. Here we have a problem. And also when I see a problem on the Israeli side, I also talk about this problem. So in a way, I became more balanced. I'm not 100% biased to my narrative. No, I recognize the other narrative. I recognize the other side of this conflict, and I became more balanced and more objective.
Can you talk about this with your family and with your friends and so, or not?
For sure, no.
No?
For me, it was in the early beginnings of this, let's say, transformation in my life. it was something so difficult to even share with my family. But I created a change inside my family that my family, I have two sisters, two brothers, my mom, that uh, they are making food and they are sending it to my friends, to my Jewish friends. This is from us. During the Jewish holidays, they are sending my Jewish friends Chag Sameach.
Really?
So in a way, I created a change because I educated my family. It took me time, but I created this change inside my family. But unfortunately, I cannot expand more. My limits is my family. So, but of course, I cannot go and share this with a place that I grew up in. It's, as I told you, this is the nest of angers. They would kill me there. It's like I will be portrayed as the betrayer, as the one who's stabbing his people in the back.
But you want to make some change, huh? Do you have some ideas how you want to do this?
Now, yeah, I came up with the idea, and with Kay, she was the first person who supported this idea, even though she had a lot of experiences. She went through a lot of experiences that are enough for her to be 100% hatred.
Against Palestinians?
Yeah, to hate something called Arabs, to hate something called Palestinians. But she did exactly the opposite of what we have here. She didn't want to sink in the victimhood mentality, but we sink in the victimhood mentality. And this is the thing that blinds us, that blocks everything from our eyes. So we come with this initiative, we call it the Yellow Brick Road. You know, it's an initiative on the very, very, very micro level. I want to make it in my place. To talk briefly about it, it's an after-school program, and unfortunately in that place and in the honor schools and in the public school also, we don't have anything called after-school program. So this will be a unique experience to have an after-school programs for students who are studying in the honor schools. In this school, in this program, in this after-school program, we are going to work on several things that will steal them from this, let's say, radical education system. So for instance, we want to work on their English because based on my personal experience, English helped me a lot to open my mind and to open my heart and to broaden my horizons. So I can see the things with a more balanced filters. And also we want to work on the music and the art in that center because unfortunately the Palestinian education system does not teach music and arts. For instance, I remember in that honor school, when we used to have the art session once a week, we figured out that the math teacher is coming, and he used to tell us, "I'm going to teach you the art of math." Yeah. So these things, I believe that these things that they open the heart, they open the mind, they soften also the heart, and they can see you, they can help you to get rid of the bitterness that you have. So in general, this is our idea that we just started. We are in the early beginning. We are looking for, let's say, for me, yes, I want to teach. Let's say I have the plan, I have the things, but what we want is that we are looking for kind of support. I mean, we have the energy, we have the potential, we have the plan, but we are looking for a fuel. But it's not the fuel that the Palestinian Authority is doing. Another fuel, another positive fuel. And hopefully at some point I will be able to have, you know, I'm a dreamer. It's my dream just to have this place, this after-school program in my place. But I really wanted, let's say in the future, in the next 5, 6, 7 years, to have a place like this that feeds positivity, that feeds, let's say, good education to every Palestinian kid everywhere in West Bank and Gaza.
Yeah, wow. So what is your dream for the future? Do you think peace will come soon?
Sure, sure. If I don't believe that peace will come, I will not be with you here. I mean, what's the point of me sharing this? But the thing is that we have to, let me put it this way, we have a lot of problems here. We need to identify these problems. We need to understand why do we have these problems. The moment we solve these problems, we can pave the road to the peace. Yes, it's not, unfortunately, it's not due to the so many complexities that we have here. You, like a lot of you are desperate. They say, no, there is no peace. But no, I say there is peace and there will be peace. But we need to pave the road. We need to prepare the people. Peace is not just an agreement between two political leaders and that's it. No. People, I am the one who makes the peace. I am the one the grassroots, the people who make the peace. When they feel that, yes, I accept the other side, this is the road that we should pave so we can find the shape of that peace.
Wow, thank you.
It's a pleasure, sir.